So hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to Proxima What Ifs. So we are back with a brand new movie on what if Rimuru went in Overlord and rivaled the Overlord. But before we start, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Now let's begin the story. Chapter 1. The tremors of convergence. The heart of the Rimuru Tempest Federation pulsed with life, a symphony of diverse voices and vibrant energy. Yet, Rimuru Tempest, the Demon Lord and benevolent ruler of this utopia, felt an unsettling tremor in the fabric of reality. It was a sensation far beyond his evolved senses, a chilling premonition that whispered of impending chaos. His mind, augmented by Seal, his ultimate skill and the manifestation of his true dragon form, raced through countless simulations, seeking a logical explanation for this anomaly. Seal, Rimuru's thoughts echoed in the vast expanse of his evolved consciousness. Analyze the disturbance. Is it natural or artificial? Analyzing. Ciel's voice, a symphony of logic and calculation, resonated within his mind. The disturbance originates from an extra-dimensional source, Rimuru-sama. A convergence of realities is imminent. Convergence? Rimuru's brow furrowed. What could be causing this? Unknown, Rimuru-sama. But the energy signature is immense, far beyond anything recorded in this world's history. As Seal spoke, a blinding flash of otherworldly light engulfed the city of Tempest. A tremor shook the very foundations of the land, causing the normally placid lake to churn with violent waves. The citizens of Tempest, caught off guard by the sudden upheaval, scrambled for safety, their cries of alarm echoing through the streets. In the heart of the chaos, a colossal structure materialized, its obsidian walls adorned with grotesque gargoyles and arcane runes. The structure pulsed with an oppressive aura, a dark presence that sent chills down the spines of even the strongest of Rimuru's subordinates. Rimuru, his senses heightened, reached out with his true dragon aura, probing the enigmatic structure. He felt a vast and ancient power emanating from its depths, a power that rivaled his own. Meanwhile, within the labyrinthine depths of the newly arrived structure, the great tomb of Nazarick, a skeletal figure cloaked in elaborate robes stirred. Ainz Ooal Gown, the Overlord of Nazarick, felt an inexplicable shift in his surroundings. His mind, filled with the knowledge and wisdom of 1,000 lifetimes, struggled to comprehend the situation. It seems we have been transported to an unfamiliar realm. Ainz's voice, a chilling whisper that echoed through the tomb's grand halls, startled his loyal guardians. He gazed at the assembled figures, their faces a mix of confusion and anticipation. Albedo, Ainz addressed his most trusted advisor, her beauty a mask of unwavering loyalty and ambition. Assemble a reconnaissance team. We must ascertain the nature of this new world and the potential threats it may pose. Albedo, her crimson eyes gleaming with predatory intent, bowed her head. As you command, Ainz-sama. As the guardians of Nazarick prepared to venture out into the unknown, Rimuru, guided by Ciel's vast knowledge, made his way towards the imposing structure. He was determined to unravel the mystery behind its sudden appearance and the threat it posed to his beloved Tempest. The stage was set for a clash of titans, a meeting of two overlords whose paths had intertwined in the most unexpected of ways. The fate of two worlds hung in the balance, as the convergence of Tempest and Nazarick marked the beginning of a new era, a time of uncertainty, conflict, and the potential for unprecedented change. Chapter 2. The Overlord Gambit. Ainz Ooal Gown, his skeletal visage illuminated by the eerie glow of Nazarick's torches, surveyed his assembled guardians with a calculating gaze. The abrupt arrival in this unknown world had left them disoriented, yet Ainz saw this as an opportunity, a chance to expand his dominion and gather knowledge. We find ourselves in a peculiar situation. Ainz's voice, a chilling whisper that echoed through the grand hall, captured the attention of his loyal subjects. This world, with its unfamiliar magic and unique inhabitants, presents us with both challenges and possibilities. Albedo, her beauty a mask of unwavering loyalty and ambition, stepped forward. Ainz-sama, allow us to conquer this land and offer it as a tribute to your greatness. Demiurge, the strategist of the group, stroked his chin thoughtfully. A hasty conquest might not be the most prudent course of action. We must first gather intelligence, understand the power dynamics of this world, and assess the potential threats. Ainz nodded in agreement. Demiurge is correct. We must tread carefully. This Rimuru Tempest, the ruler of this land, possesses a power that is not to be underestimated. Ainz's words sent a shiver down the spines of his guardians. The Overlord rarely spoke of anyone with such respect, a testament to the strength he had sensed in Rimuru during their initial encounter. Shultir, Ainz addressed the bloodthirsty vampire, her crimson eyes burning with a predatory glint. Lead a reconnaissance team into Tempest. Gather information on their defenses, their resources, and most importantly, their leader. Shultir bowed her head, her voice dripping with anticipation. As you command, Ainz-sama. I shall bring you the head of this Rimuru Tempest as a trophy. Meanwhile, Rimuru had returned to Tempest, his mind still reeling from the encounter with Ainz and his guardians. He convened a council with his closest advisors, sharing the details of his visit to Nazarick and the ominous power he had sensed within its walls. Ainz Ooal Gown. A name that speaks of power and mystery, Rimuru mused, his slime form shimmering with an otherworldly glow. He is a formidable opponent, one who should not be underestimated. Xian, the loyal Oni, clenched her fists, her demonic aura flaring momentarily. If he dares to threaten Tempest, we will crush him and his followers beneath our feet. Benimaru, the fiery commander, nodded in agreement. We cannot allow these outsiders to disrupt the peace we have worked so hard to build. We must be prepared to defend our home at all costs. Rimuru raised a hand, silencing the heated discussion. We cannot jump to conclusions. We must gather more information, understand their motives, and assess their true strength before we take any drastic action. He turned to Seal, his ultimate skill and confidant. Seal, analyze the data gathered from Nazarick. Is there anything we can use to our advantage? Affirmative. Rimuru-sama. Ciel's voice, a symphony of logic and calculation, resonated within his mind. Nazarick's power structure is based on a hierarchy of guardians, each with unique abilities and strengths. We can exploit their individual weaknesses and create divisions within their ranks. Rimuru's eyes gleamed with a newfound determination. Excellent, Seal. We will use their own arrogance and ambition against them. We will play a game of shadows, a game of manipulation and deception. We will show them that Tempest is not to be trifled with. As Rimuru and Ainz, two overlords from different worlds, began their intricate dance of diplomacy and subterfuge, the fate of both Tempest and Nazarick hung in the balance. The stage was set for a clash of titans, a battle of wits and wills that would determine the future of two nations. Chapter 3. The Tempest's hidden strength. While Nazarick plotted in the shadows, life in Tempest continued its vibrant rhythm. However, beneath the cheerful facade, a sense of guarded vigilance permeated the air. Rimuru's citizens, aware of the potential threat posed by the newcomers, diligently trained and honed their skills, ready to defend their home at a moment's notice. Rimuru, meanwhile, delved deeper into the information gathered by his subordinates. Seal, his ever-present advisor, analyzed the data, identifying patterns and vulnerabilities within Nazarick's hierarchy. Rimuru-sama, Ciel's voice resonated within his mind. I have the weakness within Nazarick's command structure. The Guardians, while powerful, are fiercely independent and driven by their own desires and ambitions. A house divided against itself cannot stand, Rimuru mused, a thoughtful expression on his face. We can exploit this division to our advantage. He summoned his advisors, Xian, Benimaru, Sue, and Hakuro, to a secret meeting in his private chamber. The dimly lit room, adorned with maps and strategic diagrams, served as the nerve center of Tempest's defenses. I have a plan, Rimuru announced, his voice resonating with quiet confidence. We will not simply defend against Nazarick's potential aggression. We will turn their own strengths against them. He outlined his strategy, a multi-pronged approach that involved diplomatic maneuvers, covert operations, and subtle manipulation. The goal was to sow discord among the Guardians, exploit their individual weaknesses, and ultimately neutralize their threat to Tempest. Benimaru, the fiery commander, grinned, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. A bold plan, Rimuru-sama. I am eager to see it unfold. Sue, the shadow ninja, nodded silently, his shadowy form blending into the darkness. I will gather intelligence and sow seeds of doubt within Nazarick's ranks. Hakuro, the wise swordsman, offered his counsel. We must also focus on strengthening our own defenses. A united Tempest is a formidable force. Rimuru nodded in agreement. Indeed, Hakuro. We must not neglect our own preparations. We must be ready for any eventuality. In the days that followed, Tempest citizens redoubled their efforts, training with renewed vigor and determination. The city's defenses were bolstered, new traps and barriers were constructed, and contingency plans were formulated. Rimuru, with Ciel's guidance, initiated a series of diplomatic exchanges with the various factions within Nazarick. He appealed to their individual desires and ambitions, offering subtle incentives and veiled promises of power. Sholtir, the bloodthirsty vampire, was tempted by the prospect of greater power and influence within Nazarick. Demiurge, the cunning strategist, was intrigued by Rimuru's knowledge of magic and technology. Even Cocytus, the stoic warrior, was swayed by Rimuru's offer of a worthy challenge. As Rimuru's manipulations began to take effect, cracks appeared in Nazarick's once unbreakable facade. The Guardians, their loyalty to Ainz strained by their own ambitions, grew increasingly suspicious of each other. Whispers of betrayal and dissent filled the halls of the tomb. Ainz, his senses dulled by his own hubris and overconfidence, remained oblivious to the growing unrest within his ranks. He believed that his guardians were unwavering in their loyalty, a belief that would soon be shattered by the seeds of doubt sown by Rimuru and his allies. The stage was set for a dramatic confrontation, a clash of wills and a battle for the soul of Nazarick. The Tempest's hidden strength, its unity and unwavering loyalty to Rimuru, would prove to be a formidable weapon in the coming conflict. Chapter 4. The Gathering Storm in the Heart of Tempest, a vibrant celebration was underway. The annual Harvest Festival, a time of joy and abundance, filled the city with a festive atmosphere. However, beneath the cheerful facade, a sense of unease lingered. The knowledge of Nazarick's presence, the looming threat of their unknown intentions, cast a shadow over the festivities. Rimuru, his jovial demeanor masking his inner turmoil, mingled with his subjects, sharing in their joy and offering words of encouragement. He knew that a storm was brewing, a conflict that could shatter the peace he had worked so hard to build. Yet, he remained steadfast, his resolve unwavering. Rimuru-sama, a familiar voice whispered in his ear. It was Sue, the shadow ninja, his form blending seamlessly into the shadows. I have returned from Nazarick with troubling news. Rimuru excused himself from the festivities and followed Sue to a secluded alcove, away from prying eyes. The ninja's report confirmed his worst fears. Nazarick's guardians were growing restless, their ambitions fueled by Rimuru's subtle manipulations. Sholtir is becoming increasingly aggressive, Sue reported, his voice barely a whisper. Her bloodlust is spiraling out of control, and she is openly challenging the authority of her fellow guardians. Demiurge is consumed by his research, he continued. He spends all his time poring over ancient texts and conducting arcane experiments. His obsession is bordering on madness. Rimuru listened intently, his mind racing through the implications of Sue's report. He knew that Albedo was the mastermind behind this growing chaos, but he had underestimated the speed at which her plan was unfolding. We must act quickly, Rimuru declared, his voice firm and resolute. We cannot allow Nazarick to descend into chaos. It would destabilize the entire region and threaten the peace of this world. He turned to Sue, his eyes gleaming with a determined light. Return to Nazarick and continue your surveillance. Report any further developments immediately. We need to be prepared for any eventuality. Sue bowed and vanished into the shadows, leaving Rimuru alone with his thoughts. He knew that time was of the essence. He had to find a way to neutralize Albedo's threat before it was too late. Meanwhile, within the depths of Nazarick, Albedo's plan was reaching its climax. The enchanted gifts, their subtle influence gnawing at the Guardians' minds, had pushed them to the brink of open conflict. Sholtir, her thirst for blood insatiable, challenged Cocytus to a duel, a clash of titanic proportions that shook the very foundations of the tomb. Demiurge, his sanity hanging by a thread, retreated further into his research, his mind consumed by dark and forbidden knowledge. Ainz, his senses finally alerted to the growing unrest, struggled to maintain order, but his authority, once absolute, was waning. The Guardians, their loyalty divided, were no longer willing to blindly follow his commands. The seeds of doubt, planted by Rimuru and nurtured by Albedo, had blossomed into a full-blown crisis. The once united Nazarick was crumbling from within, its power and influence teetering on the edge of a precipice. The storm that Rimuru had feared was upon them, a tempest of chaos and destruction that threatened to engulf both Tempest and Nazarick. The time for diplomacy had passed. The time for action had arrived. Chapter 5. A tempestuous revelation. The air in Tempest hung heavy with anticipation. The joyous melodies of the harvest festival had been replaced by a tense silence, a palpable sense of unease that permeated every corner of the city. The citizens, their faces etched with worry, gathered in hushed whispers, their eyes darting nervously towards the imposing silhouette of Nazarick on the horizon. In the Grand Council chamber, Rimuru sat upon his throne, his usually jovial demeanor replaced by a grim determination. His advisors, their faces reflecting the gravity of the situation, stood before him, awaiting his orders. The situation in Nazarick is dire, Rimuru began, his voice echoing through the chamber. Albedo's manipulations have pushed the Guardians to the brink of open conflict. We cannot allow this chaos to spread to our lands. He paused, his gaze sweeping over his trusted companions. It is time to reveal the truth. We must expose Albedo's treachery and unite the Guardians against her. Benimaru, his fiery spirit ablaze, stepped forward. Rimuru-sama, I am ready to lead a strike force into Nazarick. We will capture Albedo and bring her to justice. Shion, her demonic aura flaring, seconded Benimaru's proposal. Let us show those arrogant Guardians the true strength of Tempest. Rimuru, however, raised a hand, silencing their eager voices. A direct assault on Nazarick would be reckless. We must tread carefully, for we do not know the full extent of their power. He turned to Sue, the shadow ninja, who had returned from his reconnaissance mission. Sue, what have you learned? His voice barely a whisper. Albedo has secured the loyalty of several powerful Guardians. She has convinced them that you, Rimuru-sama, are a threat to Nazarick's supremacy. Rimuru's eyes narrowed. So, she has turned them against me. This is more serious than I anticipated. Seal, the ever-present voice of reason, interjected. Rimuru-sama, I propose a different approach. We can use Albedo's own weapon against her. We can manipulate the information flow within Nazarick, sow seeds of doubt, and turn the Guardians against each other. Rimuru pondered Ciel's suggestion, a glimmer of intrigue in his eyes. It was a risky gamble, but it could potentially avert a devastating conflict. Very well, Rimuru declared, his voice resolute. We will engage in a battle of information, a war of whispers. We will expose Albedo's lies and reveal her true intentions to the Guardians. He turned to his advisors, their faces a mix of determination and apprehension. This will not be an easy task. We must be cunning, discreet, and above all, united. The fate of our world may very well depend on our success. With a newfound sense of purpose, Rimuru and his advisors set about their task. They crafted a series of anonymous messages, each one designed to sow discord and mistrust among the Guardians. They leaked information about Albedo's secret communications with a mysterious benefactor, her manipulation of the enchanted gifts, and her ultimate goal of seizing control of Nazarick. The messages spread like wildfire through the tomb, whispered from one Guardian to another, fueling their suspicions and doubts. The once united Nazarick was now a breeding ground for paranoia and intrigue, its foundation crumbling under the weight of Albedo's deceit. As the whispers grew louder, the Guardians began to question Albedo's motives and her loyalty to Ainz. They turned against each other, accusing and blaming, their unity shattered by the seeds of doubt planted by Rimuru. Albedo, realizing that her plan was unraveling, grew increasingly desperate. She attempted to regain control, to reassert her authority, but it was too late. The Guardians had seen through her lies, and their trust in her had evaporated. The storm that had been brewing in Nazarick was finally unleashed, a tempest of chaos and betrayal that threatened to consume the entire tomb. Chapter 6. The flames of discord erupt. The great tomb of Nazarick, once a bastion of unyielding loyalty and unwavering order, now throbbed with an undercurrent of unease. The whispers sowed by Tempest had sprouted into full-blown paranoia, each Guardian eyeing their comrades with suspicion and distrust. Sholtir, consumed by the Bloodstone's influence, was the first to succumb to the rising tension. Her amplified bloodlust reached a fever pitch as she stormed through the halls, her eyes blazing with a feral intensity. Who among you dares to question my loyalty to Ainz-sama? She snarled, her voice echoing through the tomb's corridors. Speak now, or face my wrath. Demiurge, his mind clouded by forbidden knowledge, emerged from his chambers, a chilling aura emanating from his normally composed demeanor. Sholtir, he said, his voice dripping with disdain, your behavior is unbecoming of a floor Guardian. You are jeopardizing our mission with your reckless actions. Shatter lunged at Demiurge, her claws extended, but he effortlessly dodged her attack. A vortex of dark energy swirled around him, a testament to the sinister power he had gleaned from the enchanted tome. You dare to defy me, Demiurge? Shatter hissed, her fangs bared. I will show you the true meaning of power. Their clash erupted in a maelstrom of magic and violence, the once pristine halls of Nazarick scarred by the bottle's fury. The other guardians, caught in the crossfire, were forced to choose sides, their loyalties divided and their alliances shattered. Ainz, alerted to the chaos, rushed to the scene, his skeletal form radiating an aura of barely restrained fury. He surveyed the devastation, his voice booming with authority. Enough, he thundered. Cease this senseless fighting at once. The guardians, momentarily cowed by Ainz's presence, reluctantly withdrew. But the damage had been done. The seeds of doubt had blossomed into full-blown rebellion, the once unbreakable unity of Nazarick fractured beyond repair. Meanwhile, in Tempest, Rimuru watched the unfolding events in Nazarick through Sue's eyes. A grim satisfaction filled him as he witnessed the chaos he had orchestrated. However, he knew that the true battle was yet to come. Seal, he addressed his ultimate skill, prepare for war. Nazarick is on the brink of collapse, and we must be ready to defend ourselves against any threat they may pose. Seal, ever the efficient strategist, began formulating contingency plans, analyzing potential scenarios, and mobilizing Tempest's forces. The city's defenses were reinforced, magical barriers shimmered around its perimeter, and the citizens braced themselves for the impending storm. As the sun set over Nazarick, a sense of foreboding filled the air. The Guardians, their alliances shattered, plotted against each other, each vying for power and influence. The once proud tomb was now a den of vipers, a ticking time bomb ready to explode. Rimuru, his resolve hardened, awaited the inevitable confrontation. He knew that Nazarick, weakened by internal strife, would eventually turn its attention towards Tempest. The clash of two worlds was imminent, a battle that would determine the fate of countless lives. Chapter 7. The Serpent's Fang. The insidious whispers that slithered through Nazarick's labyrinthine corridors had poisoned the once sacred trust between the floor guardians. The grand halls, once filled with the hushed reverence of loyal servants, now echoed with accusations and threats, the air thick with tension. Shatter, consumed by the Bloodstone's corrupting influence, had become a volatile force of destruction. Her thirst for blood, amplified tenfold, drove her to lash out at her fellow guardians, her once noble visage twisted into a mask of predatory rage. "You dare to question my loyalty, you insignificant insects," she roared, her voice echoing through the chamber as she lunged at Demiurge, her crimson eyes ablaze with fury. Demiurge, his mind warped by forbidden knowledge, retaliated with a barrage of dark spells, his skeletal fingers weaving intricate patterns in the air. The resulting clash of energies sent shockwaves through the tomb, shattering priceless artifacts and sending tremors through the very foundations of Nazarick. The other guardians, caught in the crossfire, were forced to take sides, their alliances shifting like sand in a desert storm. Cocytus, the normally stoic warrior, found his loyalties tested as he witnessed the once unthinkable spectacle of his comrades turning against each other. "This madness must end," he growled, his voice a rumble that echoed through the chaos. "We cannot allow our internal strife to consume us. We must remember our duty to Ainz Sama." But his pleas fell on deaf ears. The Guardians, their minds poisoned by doubt and ambition, were beyond reason. The once united Nazarick was now a battlefield, its inhabitants locked in a desperate struggle for survival and supremacy. Meanwhile, in Tempest, Rimuru watched the unfolding chaos with a mixture of satisfaction and concern. The seeds of discord he had sown were bearing fruit, but he knew that the situation was far from resolved. "Seal," he addressed his ultimate skill, "what is the current status of Nazarick's defenses?" "The internal conflict has significantly weakened their defenses," Rimuru-sama, Seal reported. "Their attention is focused inward, and their resources are being depleted in their senseless infighting." Rimuru nodded, a calculating glint in his eyes. "It is time to strike. We must seize this opportunity to cripple Nazarick and secure our position." He summoned his advisors, their faces grim but determined. "The time for subtlety has passed," he declared. "We will launch a series of targeted strikes against Nazarick's. We will disrupt their supply lines, disable their defenses, and sow further chaos within their ranks. The advisors, eager to avenge their fallen comrades and protect their homeland, readily agreed. They dispersed, each tasked with a specific mission designed to exploit Nazarick's vulnerabilities and weaken their resolve. Benimaru led a team of skilled warriors on a daring raid against Nazarick's armory, destroying their stockpile of weapons and armor. Xian, her demonic aura burning with righteous fury, infiltrated the tomb's inner sanctum, disabling critical magical barriers and wreaking havoc on the unsuspecting guardians. Sue, the shadow ninja, sowed further discord among the guardians, planting false evidence and manipulating their actions to deepen their distrust and animosity. Hakuro, the wise swordsman, led a diversionary attack on Nazarick's outer perimeter, drawing the attention of the remaining defenders and creating an opening for Rimuru to strike at the heart of the tomb. As the sun set over Nazarick, the once mighty fortress was engulfed in flames, its walls crumbling under the relentless assault of Tempest's forces. The Guardians, their ranks decimated and their morale shattered, fought a desperate battle for survival, their once proud empire reduced to a smoldering ruin. Chapter 8. Confrontation in the heart of chaos. Amidst the fiery chaos that engulfed Nazarick, a solitary figure emerged from the smoke and debris. Rimuru Tempest, his slime form shimmering with an ethereal glow, stood at the heart of the ravaged tomb, his gaze fixed upon the skeletal figure that sat upon the once proud throne. Ainz Ooal Gown, his composure finally shattered, glared at the intruder with a mixture of rage and disbelief. The once orderly halls of Nazarick were now a battlefield, his guardians locked in a vicious struggle for dominance, their loyalty to him all but forgotten. Rimuru Tempest, Ainz's voice, a chilling rasp that echoed through the ruined chamber, dripped with venomous hatred. You have dared to violate the sanctity of my domain, to sow discord among my loyal servants. You will pay dearly for your treachery. Rimuru, his expression unreadable, met Ainz's gaze with unwavering resolve. Your reign of terror ends here, Ainz Ooal Gown. You have brought this chaos upon yourself, through your arrogance and your misguided ambitions. Ainz rose from his throne, his skeletal frame radiating a dark aura of power. Do not underestimate me, slime. I am the Overlord of Nazarick, a being of unparalleled might. You are but a lowly creature, a mere insect to be crushed beneath my heel. He raised his hand, summoning a swirling vortex of dark energy that crackled with destructive power. Rimuru, however, remained unfazed. His body shimmered, the true dragon's power surging through him, transforming his slime form into a majestic, dragon-like figure. You are not the only one with hidden depths, Ainz Ooal Gown, Rimuru declared, his voice echoing with the authority of a true ruler. I am Rimuru Tempest, the Demon Lord and true dragon, and I will not be defeated. The two figures clashed, their attacks a whirlwind of magic and might. The very air crackled with energy as they unleashed their full power, the clash echoing throughout the ruined tomb. Ainz, drawing upon his vast knowledge of magic, summoned forth a legion of undead warriors, their skeletal forms a chilling testament to his mastery over death. Rimuru, in his true dragon form, countered with a barrage of elemental attacks, his breath a searing flame that incinerated the undead hordes. The battle raged, a titanic struggle between two beings of unimaginable power. The ground trembled, the walls shook, and the very fabric of reality warped and distorted under the onslaught. In the midst of the chaos, the guardians of Nazarick, their senses momentarily cleared by the sheer intensity of the confrontation, looked upon their master with a mixture of awe and fear. They had never witnessed such a display of power, such a devastating clash of wills. Ainz, his skeletal frame battered and bruised, realized that he had underestimated his opponent. Rimuru, the seemingly harmless slime, was a force of nature, a being whose power rivaled even his own. Impossible, Ainz gasped, his voice barely a whisper. How can a mere slime possess such power? Rimuru, his dragon form shimmering with an otherworldly light, landed gracefully before Ainz. You underestimate the potential of evolution, Ainz Ooal Gown. I have surpassed the limitations of my former self, and I have become something far greater. He extended a hand towards Ainz, a gesture of peace and reconciliation. This conflict is senseless. We are both victims of circumstance, pawns in a game played by forces beyond our comprehension. Let us put aside our differences and work together to find a way out of this predicament. Ainz, his pride wounded but his pragmatism intact, hesitated. He knew that Rimuru was right. A prolonged conflict would only lead to further destruction and loss. Very well, Ainz conceded, his voice a hoarse whisper. I accept your truce. He grasped Rimuru's hand, a silent agreement sealing their newfound alliance. The Guardians of Nazarick, witnessing their master's decision, reluctantly followed suit, their animosity towards Rimuru tempered by a grudging respect for his power. The battle was over, but the war was far from won. Rimuru and Ainz, two overlords from different worlds, now stood united against a common enemy, their fates intertwined in a web of mystery and intrigue. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with danger and the unknown, but together, they would face the challenges that awaited them, their destinies intertwined in a symphony of chaos and hope. Chapter 9. A new dawn, a fragile truce as the dust settled over the ruined battlefield, an eerie silence descended upon Nazarick. The echoes of battle faded, replaced by the whispers of uncertainty and the weight of loss. The Guardians, their wounds both physical and emotional, gathered around their master, their eyes filled with a mixture of shame and regret. Ainz, his skeletal frame bearing the scars of the intense confrontation, addressed his loyal subjects with a heavy heart. We have been humbled, he admitted, his voice devoid of its usual arrogance. Rimuru Tempest has proven to be a formidable adversary, a force equal to our own. He paused, his gaze sweeping over the assembled Guardians. But this defeat is not the end, it is merely a setback, a lesson to be learned. We must adapt, evolve, and become stronger if we are to survive in this new world. Rimuru, his true dragon form retracted, stood beside Ainz, his expression a mask of stoic resolve. We have much to learn from each other, he said, his voice resonating with a calm authority. Together, we can overcome any obstacle that stands in our path. The Guardians, their initial animosity towards Rimuru tempered by his display of power and his willingness to extend a hand of friendship, listened intently. They realized that their survival depended on unity, on putting aside their differences and working together towards a common goal. The first step towards reconciliation was a joint effort to rebuild Nazarick. Rimuru, with his vast knowledge of magic and technology, offered his assistance, his subordinates working alongside the Guardians to restore the tomb to its former glory. The collaboration was not without its challenges. The cultural differences between the two factions, the clash of personalities, and the lingering suspicions made the task arduous. However, under Rimuru's patient guidance and Ainz's pragmatic leadership, progress was made. As the days turned into weeks, a sense of camaraderie began to emerge between the two groups. They shared stories, exchanged knowledge, and even engaged in friendly sparring matches. The Guardians, exposed to Rimuru's benevolent nature and his unwavering dedication to his people, began to question their own beliefs and values. Albedo, her pride wounded and her ambitions thwarted, struggled to come to terms with her defeat. She watched as Rimuru and Ainz forged a bond of mutual respect and understanding, her heart filled with a mixture of envy and regret. Rimuru, sensing her inner turmoil, approached her one day as she stood alone on a balcony overlooking the rebuilt city of Nazarick. Albedo, he said gently, his voice filled with empathy, I understand your pain. You have lost much, but you have also gained a valuable lesson. Albedo turned to face him, her eyes filled with unshed tears. What lesson could I possibly have learned from this humiliation? She asked bitterly. Rimuru smiled, his eyes filled with a warmth that melted her icy facade. You have learned the importance of trust, of friendship, of putting the needs of others before your own. These are the qualities that make a true leader, a true guardian. Albedo stared at him, her heart filled with conflicting emotions. Rimuru's words resonated with her, stirring something deep within her soul. Could she, the once proud and ambitious guardian, truly change her ways? The answer to that question would determine the future of both Tempest and Nazarick. The fragile truce between the two factions hung in the balance, the fate of two worlds resting on the shoulders of those who dared to hope for a brighter future. Chapter 10. A pact forged in shadows. The uneasy peace that had settled over Nazarick was a delicate balance, a tightrope walk between cooperation and underlying suspicion. Rimuru, ever vigilant, recognized the fragility of their alliance with Ainz. While the surface interactions were amicable, he knew the inherent conflict in their ideologies could erupt at any moment. One evening, as the reconstruction of Nazarick neared completion, Rimuru found himself summoned to Ainz's private chambers. The room, adorned with macabre artifacts and arcane texts, exuded an aura of power and mystery. Ainz, his skeletal frame cloaked in darkness, gestured for Rimuru to take a seat. "Rimuru Tempest," he began, his voice a chilling whisper, "we have made significant progress in rebuilding Nazarick, thanks in no small part to your assistance. However, there remains a matter that needs to be addressed." Rimuru, his slime form shimmering with an otherworldly glow, tilted his head in inquiry. "And what matter would that be, Ainz Ooal Gown?" "The future of our alliance," Ainz declared, his voice resonating with a steely determination. "Our worlds have merged, and we are both stranded in this unfamiliar realm. We must decide whether we will continue to coexist peacefully or become rivals in this new world." Rimuru considered Ainz's words carefully. He knew that a conflict with Nazarick would be devastating for both sides. Yet, he could not ignore the inherent danger posed by their opposing ideologies. "I agree," Rimuru replied, his voice calm and measured. "We cannot ignore the potential for conflict. However, I believe that cooperation is still our best course of action. We have much to gain from each other, and a war would only serve to weaken us both." Ainz nodded slowly, a thoughtful expression on his skeletal face. "I concur. But we need to establish clear boundaries, a set of rules that will ensure our mutual survival and prosperity." Rimuru and Ainz spent the next several hours in deep discussion, their minds working in unison to formulate a pact that would govern their interactions and prevent future conflicts. They agreed to share information, resources, and technology, to respect each other's territories, and to come to each other's aid in times of need. However, the most crucial aspect of the pact was a mutual non-aggression agreement. Both parties agreed to refrain from any actions that could be construed as hostile or threatening, and to resolve any disputes through peaceful negotiations. The pact was sealed with a blood ritual, a solemn ceremony that bound both leaders to their vows. As they exchanged blood, a faint glow enveloped them, a testament to the magical power that reinforced their agreement. "May this pact serve as a foundation for a lasting peace between our nations," Rimuru declared, his voice echoing through the chamber. Ainz, his skeletal face a mask of solemnity, nodded in agreement. "May it be so." The pact between Rimuru and Ainz, forged in the shadows of uncertainty and distrust, marked a turning point in the relationship between Tempest and Nazarick. It was a fragile truce, a tentative step towards coexistence. However, both leaders knew that the true test of their alliance lay ahead, in the challenges and tribulations that awaited them in this new and unknown world. The end.